FaceTime.
whatever you call it.
Yeah,
I
FaceTime.
use FaceTime.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me just see if I can expand this out a little bit more. So, yes, I'm delighted to be joined via Skype with Roger Ryan. He's a producer, music director, record label executive, songwriter, and one time stand in for Take Six. Have I got it all right?
I suppose that was a lot.
That's a lot, isn't it? So, how you doing anyway?
I'm doing good. I'm doing
Yeah,
good.
man, you're looking good, man. It's been a long time since we clap eyes on you. So, but
Thank you.
I'm a bit
Same for you.
disappointed. I'm a bit disappointed, man. Where is the colorful shirts, man? What's happening? Those are
Well,
your
I'm a
trademarks.
Puma guy. I still have the colorful shirts. I love Puma. I want to be the first producer sponsored by Puma.
Okay.
I
So,
love Puma. I love Puma gear.
so you must love Jamaica then, because you know Jamaica's all Puma, isn't
Well, there's a certain thing happening there.
it?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh man, I'm really glad for you
Well,
to.
most of the islands are doing Puma.
Well, that's true,
That's basically that's because of the soccer.
Yes.
That's what that's about. Is the
Right,
soccer.
right. So, Roger, I've reeled off a little bit there about what the sort of things you do, but just for those who don't know, just fill in some blanks for me. People you work with, the sort of things you do in
Well,
the music
like you said, I'm a
industry.
music producer. I started out as a music director. So my
Mm,
first big job was CC Winans. I was the first music director. I toured with her for about 3 years.
mm-hmm,
And during that time, she was the largest Christian artist in the world. So
mm,
her gigs weren't the average gigs that a Christian artist would get. We
mm-hmm.
did the cinema awards. We opened the cinema awards.
Right.
This is where we're doing tributes to Susan Lucci and Richard Dreyfuss and Bob
Mm-hmm.
Hope and Elizabeth Taylor. And,
Wow.
we're on the stage, sharing the stage with Shaka and Tony Bennett and, just Natalie Cole, just crazy kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And of course, we did the White House.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Clinton was in office
Mm.
during that time, and I was fortunate to co-produce a show at the White House with PBS for her, which is actually now on YouTube, which is really interesting because there was no YouTube back then.
Wow.
I got opportunity obviously to play for Whitney Houston, so that's one of those stars in my little stripes
Mm.
in my uniform. One of the few guys on the planet to play for Whitney Houston.
Mm. Mm.
I took one picture with her. I would have taken 500 if I'd known what I know now.
Wow. Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yes.
Songwriters Hall of Fame induction ceremony,
Mm-hmm.
tribute to Diana Ross, things like that I've gotten to do with CC. And then after CC, I became the music director for Avalon,
Mm-hmm.
Anointed, and Nicole Nordeman. I was the music director for the A Tour,
Mm.
and that was the largest grossing tour since the Young Messiah Tour.
Woo.
So I did that, and then of course I was, music director for Anointed, music director for Avalon, separately
Mm-hmm.
when they did some of their gigs. I got into production at that time as well, so I did my first Shirley Caesar. I did a Shirley Caesar and Friends project. Got my first Grammy nom as a producer.
Mm-hmm.
On that project, I got Sharon Riley and Faith Corral out of Canada signed to an international deal, first gospel group in their country to get signed. And when they got signed and they won the Juno Award, which we all have a Juno Award, which is a Canadian Grammy, Dan Aykroyd, David Foster, those guys are all Canadians. So they saw them and put them in Blues Brothers 2000. So they're in the movie and on the soundtrack.
Wow.
And just recently, Triple X's latest movie, Sharon's in the closing scene in the choir.
Mm-hmm.
So she's gotten to do a lot of stuff. Some of these things have to do with what she did, earlier on in her career,
Right.
music and movie wise.
Mm.
The label. Oh, and then I toured with Winona for about 3 years, which was cool. Did my second presidential performance with her. I did the Lilo and Stitch movie premiere. Did Ashley Judd's Wedding in Scotland. Did Indianapolis 500. Tons of cool gigs. And then since then, I've been producing records, but decided to start a label because I felt like if there were restaurants on every corner in Nashville, they wouldn't feed everybody.
Right.
So I decided to open a restaurant to
Okay.
work with some people that I really believe in.
Right.
And this is my third year.
Mm-hmm.
Learned a lot. Still learning. This is the ground. still at ground zero, so to speak. But one of the singles on one of my artists, Tara Dene, has been in the top 500 BDS radio detections for the last 2 years. With every gospel single that's been out. It's charted some well, and we just dropped her first project. It's called Taking My Heart. Very excited about it. What else?
Wow. But Roger, I've known you for a while, and I knew some of this stuff, but not that much of it. And it's a testament of your character. You've done a lot, but people wouldn't know it, unless you told them, so to speak. Where some people,
you asked me.
I know that. That's fair enough. I appreciate it, because I need my folks over here to just understand who is this guy, Roger Ryan, because they probably know your stuff but not know you.
Fortitude, Generation J.
There you go. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Shirley Caesar and Friends was a big record. It was a concept record, but it was. It was a duets project, so it was Shirley Caesar, Kirk Franklin.
Lita Adams.
By the way, I co-produced the New Nation tour for Kirk. I flew out to Dallas and spent 2 weeks with Kirk.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and produced the No Nation, something you don't know. Because, I'm not a show-off, you know what I mean?
I know that. But, I know that.
I sat with Kirk for 2 weeks and taught him to play CeCe's medley, co-produced a whole opening segment for him, and we had an incredible time. Kirk is a genius. He's like a gospel or Christian version of Michael Jackson. I've never seen anybody with the kind of work ethic that he has putting together a show. It was just that was a thing. It was a thing, and he was very open, very receptive. In fact, he wouldn't start anything without me. Limo was late to pick me up, and he was like, "Okay." I got to the studio late one night, and he was like, "Okay." He's sitting there with the family, and he goes, "Okay, Roger's now here. Now we can go to work." And I'm like, "Okay, you're Kirk Franklin. Maybe you could have done something without me." The first day of rehearsal, he walks into the hall and he goes, "Where's Roger?" Roger's in charge, and he walks out. And I've had those kind of interesting experiences. Sheila E. Was spearheading this Soulful Celebration. We were going to tour the Soulful Celebration, and I was going to be the music director, assistant music director. And Sheila did the same thing. She had me on the phone calling Kelly Price and Crystal Lewis and all these people, and then running the rehearsal. And she was in the office the whole time. And when she met me, she's called proper management and told them, "I'm not doing the tour without Roger." I'm like, "Okay, you're Sheila E. You can find somebody else." But God's been good. He's opened some doors that these are not normal doors. This is not Pathfinder. This is not AYS. This is Sheila E. who played for Prince.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And still well respected. Her company, I think, is called Heaven Productions or something. She's a Christian, actually. Very interesting. Some of the dynamics that people have gotten to work with. Patty Austin. That was my first big job, and the San Francisco Symphony Orchestra when I first moved out of grad school. And while I was a student at grad school, I don't know if you know this, but the school hired me to write for Della Reese while I was in school.
What?
Yeah, so I did Duke Ellington charts for Della Reese while I was a student at University of Alabama. So yeah, I've gotten to do very diverse and interesting things. I've done all the Good Morning Americas, Fox After Breakfast, CBS This Morning. Gordon Elliott, Rosie O'Donnell's show. The only shows we didn't do were Jay Leno and Dave Letterman because it was a Black Week when we did the Lilo and Stitch marketing week. So they didn't tape any shows that week.
Right.
So that's the only reason why we didn't do those shows. But I've done everything else.
Man,
Good Morning America twice.
I think your web page need a few more pages for your bio, man. I think definitely.
You ask me this stuff and I have to think about it. But Mike, what's one of the things that I would say to people as you get to do those things, don't hide them. I have a studio, as you know, and I have a lobby, and I've got things on my wall, and I never hung any of those things up because I didn't want to be a show off. My friends went and took the boxes out and hung up my gold records and all this stuff, and on days when I'm having a rough day, the wall is for me. It's not even for people to see what I did. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with, those things weren't given to me illegally. I earned those things and worked hard for them, and God has gifted me. So, I'm proud about it, but not proud to the point where I'm a jerk.
Sure,
But
sure,
it's
sure.
okay to embrace, it's okay to embrace who you are, and to
Yes.
say that you're smart enough or brilliant enough or good enough to do something. We go to doctors and mechanics, and one of the reasons we go back to them is because they say, I can fix this.
Yeah,
Hey, no problem.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
this. I can fix it.
Yeah.
I'm a really good mechanic, and I know how to fix your car.
Absolutely,
or I'm a good doctor,
absolutely.
or I know how to do that. But when it comes to musicians that are Christian, or more specifically grown up as Adventist, people don't want you to be proud of the gift that you have. They don't want you to say that you can actually do it. And I think all of that is consistent with the way we treat musicians in our church. Not pay them, not really show them the kind of love they need. When we take for granted their gift. Well, you're doing it for the Lord. That doesn't mean you shouldn't eat. Musicians are Levites. They're chosen and they're paid in the Bible, and we have to be Levites as who we are, but we also have to, on the other side of that, treat it as Levites.
Roger, you talked there about setting up your own label, Aftertouch Music. The reason why we're doing this Songwriters event, the conference, and myself really specifically, like you, it's about time we started singing our own songs written by our own people, and supporting our people, because as we're singing those songs, they're going to get benefits from that. And I brought Gail Jones Murphy here. We'll talk more about her later on. She's here with helping me out.
She's a genius.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I really wanted to touch base with you because as a producer, there is a relationship with songwriters. So I just want you to sort of paint a picture for me, from your perspective and the way you do things. How does it work? I'm a songwriter. How do I connect with you, or how do you get to know about me? How does that process work?
Well, that process is, relationships are everything.
Oh, right.
So, like, the way I know you, Mike, is not because I found you on the internet. When I went on the tour with Take Six, whom I knew since my 11th year in high school, I knew I was going to Oakwood. They took me to London, and they introduced me to a gentleman named Mike Johnson. And they said, this is the first producer to bring us to Europe, blah, 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 blah. And you and I became friends. Soon after that, I came back and did a live recording in a workshop. So that's how we know each other.
Right.
So, there's not a super procedure, but it's about relationships. Now, with a producer like myself, I'm always looking for good songs. I don't care where they come from. I was fortunate to work on the Faith Life record for Alvin Slaughter.
Yes.
And there's a song on there called Launch Out Into the Deep. Beautiful song. Some bus driver in New Orleans wrote it. I don't know his name, don't really know him, don't remember. But I didn't care where the song came from. When I heard it, I was like, we're recording this song.
Right.
So it's all about relationships. So with regards to me, if you had guys that wanted to send me a catalog of songs that are demoed, sure, piano and vocal, guitar and vocal, whatever. So I can pitch the songs.
Yes.
Or listen to them and let some of my artists hear them, or let some other label folk hear them. I'd be willing to do that. That's how that works. But it's about relationship.
So number one is the relationships. Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And ego on the side of that needs to die. If you're going to send stuff and ask people, then ask humbly, hey, looking to be friends. And the thing about it is, me, I'm West Indian, and I try to keep life simple, as complicated it already is. All you gotta do is send me the stuff and let's be friends. And then keep calling a person. You have to bug people. I'm a busy guy. It doesn't mean that I'm too busy and don't care about you, but before you came into my life, I was doing this and doing this and doing this.
Yes.
So if you need me, if you want to hear from me, you got to make noise.
Right.
And so I pause and go, hey, Mike is trying to reach me. Like, I was flying to get home, coming through traffic, and then got a call before I came in, and then came downstairs. And I guess I changed phones recently, and I don't know if I updated my Skype account. So I was sitting here doing all this, updating my Skype because I didn't want to diss you. You know what I mean? Because you're my boy. You know what I'm saying? It's, you have it like that. But that's over period of time.
Absolutely.
And kindred spirits about some of the purposes that we feel that we have for our church. And these young Adventist guys, some of them might feel entitled or whatever. Don't feel entitled. What you need to do is feel a burden for people that are going to come after you that need direction. Everybody doesn't want to be a teacher in an academy anymore. That's over. I know for myself personally that God didn't call me to sit in four walls and teach a band, the same music each year. I was called to be beyond the four walls a long time ago. And as a boy at 9 in Tobago, I was telling my dad I dreamed of playing in front of thousands of people. And he said, my dutiful father, a West Indian Adventist guy, yes, Roger, music is a wonderful hobby. And, but in my head, I couldn't say anything back to him as a boy.
What?
I was a high school student at 9. I was a freshman.
Yeah.
But, in my head, it just didn't make sense. And I'll tell you, the time that it really resonated with me, Mike, is while I was at CC, the Billy Graham guys came and watched us play in Virginia a year before we did Billy Graham. And I didn't know what to expect. It's a crusade, crusades in our church. It's an ugly brown tent. The pastor's wife sings every night. They do a Bible quiz, to me, almost a complete waste of time. I'm embarrassed. That's a whole other conversation. But these guys go into a city for a year.
Wow.
And motivate and equip people, volunteers, the whole nine. And they don't do it at a church. They find the biggest venue. We were in Minnesota at the Minnesota Superdome. So when they called me and asked me what equipment did we need, I told them, I was laughing when I was telling them, we need KX88s, we need this, we need that, we need blah, 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 blah. I'm like, thank you, Mr. Ryan. When we got to the sound check at the Minnesota Superdome, those things were coming out of the box brand new.
Ooh.
I mean, I heard ting when you opened the box. And fortunately, I had done some festivals, Creation, this one, that one, and the guy who ran the sound, I think his name is Danny, he happened to be running this big thing. So when he saw me and I saw him, we just smiled. We knew everything was going to be all right, because we'd worked together before with Avalon, Anointed, and all that. After the sound check, I go back to the hotel. The runner brings us back in. 70,000 people. Because this is the football stadium, okay, where the Minnesota Vikings played. 70,000 people in front of me, 5,000 voice choir behind me, 1 million people watching me on ABC. And I looked up, and I'm sitting 5 feet away from Billy Graham, and I'm like, okay, this looks like my dream. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, these experiences, these things that I've gotten to do, they're not for me, they're to tell other people and encourage them.
Amen.
But, there are things with that. You have to be prepared. You have to know how to make good relationships. And humility has a part of it, but the confidence is a big deal. And I think I lacked in that regard because I didn't really get a real okay or blessing from my father to be a musician. And I think that has affected my life profoundly. In fact, I am dealing with that at this very moment.
Wow.
Because I found myself in prove mode. And instead of trying to embrace the places I were, or I was trying to prove to the artist, prove to my parents, and prove to myself. And that has been a big struggle. So my mission is to try to empower young people or upcoming musicians to utilize their gift in confidence, grace, and humility to really help other people tell their story.
Absolutely, because so many parents, Christians or not, don't see music as a proper job. It's and
it's funny, they don't see it as a proper job, but they watch the Oscars and the Grammys, and they watch movies, and they go to concerts and pay money to see people. But it's not a proper job. Okay.
So Roger, back in the day, and I'm showing my age now.
Music was made in heaven, but it's not a proper job. Okay.
There you go. I'm showing my age now, but back in the day when we used to have LPs, and I used to read the sleeve notes, producers would have at least a couple of cuts on a record. I mean, is that the same with you now? When you produce something, you've got a couple of songs you've written or rearranged. Is that the case?
Well, that's a loaded question. As a producer, production is really something different from arranging. Okay, And so when I get a song, I arrange it, and then I use production to display the arrangement.
Right, got you.
In the arranging side of that
Mm.
is where I may tweak
Mhm.
a song. Sometimes end up helping co-write or finish a song or
Mhm.
rewrite something.
Mhm.
So I find myself doing that. I do that on every record. And that's why there's SoundCloud. And in fact, in my contract, I negotiate for a portion of the publishing because it's a derivative of the original anyway.
Mhm.
And whatever I created musically could be written to by somebody else. So I negotiate with my clients to get a portion of the publishing because I feel that at this stage of my career it's fair. And
Mhm. Mhm.
quite honestly, I'm adding to your song beyond, the scope of just
Mhm.
production.
Mhm.
So it's not SoundCloud, but Sound Exchange is where I register.
Mhm.
I meant to say it's
Yeah.
Sound Exchange. So that's how that works. But at the end of the day, I don't really care if I actually write on a record or not. As a
Mhm.
producer, all I want to do is produce great songs.
Right.
I don't care that I wrote. Whitney didn't write very much.
Mhm.
She just sang hits. And if a producer is muscling somebody and I have to have a cut on a record, unless he's a really great writer, first of all, he wouldn't have to say that because somebody will say, hey, I love your writing. I'd love for you to write something for me.
Mm.
And people approach me to write because of the way I arrange.
Right.
I just don't have time because I spend so much time arranging.
Right.
But I like to write and I wouldn't mind doing it. But if a producer finds himself having to say those things, then he's not a producer.
Right.
And he has an insecurity thing going on.
Mm.
In order for me to work on your record, I have to write 2 songs or 3 songs on there.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to write, or hey, I have a catalog, and I play you some of, because the thing for me, Mike, as a producer, I'm a fan of the artists that I produce.
Mm.
That's part of my magic, I really love their singing and love their music, or I love their singing and let's go find some music for them. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I'm a fan of those artists that I produce. It's not okay, let me produce you and take care. I really want to see what I can do with them on the other side in the room, And so that changes my whole perspective on how I serve them.
Yeah.
Because producing means serving, and I've always said that. I said that when I was in the UK last time. Producing is serving the artist, giving them what they need to help tell their story in their own way, uniquely.
Yeah.
And that takes fortitude to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It also takes fortitude to give an artist a track, and then they say, "Hey, didn't know if I like the tempo or the that sound is weird," or and well, what's wrong with the track? No, okay, what don't you like about it? What if we change it like this? Or okay, well, Susan, it's not really in the mix yet. It won't feel like this once it's mixed. So I'll move it down so it doesn't bother you, or I'll mute it while you sing, but you'll see the value of it later.
Mm-hmm.
Take time to explain things to an artist that doesn't understand the full gamut of production, but don't shut their ideas down. They're the artist, things like that.
Yeah.
And that's ego and insecurity.
Right. So you talked earlier on about relationships. So we've got these budding songwriters here, and they want to submit things. From your experience, again, what are some of the biggest or most common mistake that a songwriter makes when trying to exploit
sometimes
their music?
overproducing a demo.
Overproducing the demo, right?
Yeah, well, because they're saying that it's a song demo, but they want you to hear the production,
right?
Well, I'm not listening for production. I'm listening for the song. Because I have to wear a couple of hats. As a producer, I'm listening for the song, and I might listen to the voice, but I'm not listening so much for the voice. I'm listening to the song and thinking about how this song might work with one of my artists. As a record executive, all I'm looking for is songs. I'm not looking for production unless something jumps out at me, because 9 times out of 10, as a record executive is putting together a record, he probably has a producer in mind. And not so much me, because I don't produce even on all the records I'm doing. As a producer, I've had other people work on the songs, play on the songs. I don't need to do everything. So I would make sure that the demo is simple. And then the other thing is, if you're pitching it to Yolanda Adams, don't have a guy sing it. Have a female sing it.
Okay.
So that way you can, the publisher or wherever you're sending it, can envision a female voice, and vice versa. If you're sending something if you think you can write something for Smokey Norfolk, make sure a guy sings it. Don't have a girl sing it. Doesn't make sense.
No.
If you're sending something for Shirley Caesar, don't send a solo song. she's a choir chick.
Mm.
Get 3 people in a room to do the choir part so that she can hear what, this would feel like with 3 people or 3 parts. Know who you're pitching this stuff for. If it's just generic and it's not specific, I guess then it doesn't matter. And then it's up to the producer and the A&R or the executive at the label to hear through that stuff and say, that would be perfect for Shirley. All I have to do is do this, and put a choir behind it. Or that would work for Yolanda. I'll get, so-and-so to produce it. It's right up his alley and right up her alley. That sort of thing. Those are, but just generically speaking, simple, decent recording that a person can understand what's going on and hear the song without too much distraction.
And I
because
guess,
as a producer, I listen to so much stuff in here and it's so distracting. But I'm focusing on that I'm going to work on that. So I start taking away stuff and start thinking about the arrangement and production anyway.
And so you're talking about getting. So sometimes the temptation might be songwriter wants to sing the song, but get someone who is a singer, let them sing the song, and like you say, pitch it to the right kind of target that you've got in mind.
See, what you're talking about, Mike, is results. What's the result that you want?
Right.
I mean, who cares that you sang the song? Mandisa's going to cut it. You know what I mean? Nobody's going to say who sang it.
Yes.
Sometimes they do, every now and then. That depends on the studio, the label. For example, Brian McKnight, when he was in college at Oakwood, I mean, he was doing a lot of demos from what I understand. And the company that they were sending this stuff to, I think it was Capitol or whoever at the time. And after a while, like, who is this cat that's doing all your demos? That's a little different. But that's not the norm, and that's not very common.
Right.
So if a person is sending me a song demo, send me a song demo. Don't try to be the artist. Don't try to be the producer.
Gotcha.
And don't overproduce it. But, if you say, hey, I have an interest in being an artist, and this is some of my songs, and this is me singing, that's different.
Right.
And I would listen with different ears to that. But if you're sending stuff based on a casting list from EMI, Motown, or whoever, then just send the casting list. The songs, Heather Headley's about to do a new record or whatever, here are some songs for Heather. The label is not listening for you, they're listening for Heather.
And so,
but
you talk about
different.
Heather there, Heather, your fellow country lady, So do the labels come to you and say, Roger, or they send out a list to various producers? Look, this so-and-so is looking to do an album, or how does that
I think the casting list goes to people who are signed to them as writers.
Right.
And most publishing companies will get a casting list, and then they will send it to their writers. As a producer, sometimes I get wind of those things from the label because I have, again, relationships, like with Ken Pennell over at VP over at Motown, or, with Warner Brothers. I know some of the guys there because, I just got my 3rd Grammy nominated. I did a song for Point of Grace. So I know some of the young VPs over there. So, they might say, hey, looking for songs. Or I might get an email from somewhere, and then I get invited from time to time to Motown will have listening, not parties, but hey, come and listen to these songs or these singles and pick which ones you like. And, they'll let you text while you're listening and put it up on the screen and that sort of thing.
So as a budding songwriter then, should I be looking to sign up with a publisher, or what's the best course of action?
That's loaded too. If you're going to sign with a publishing company, what does that mean? Are you getting a stipend every month to write? How much of your publishing are you giving up for that? Is it recoupable? Is it a company that really works hard to help get? Let me check this real quick. Sorry.
That's all right. Could be a big job coming in there, man. Don't want to miss that.
Oh, it's a meeting coming up. Yeah. So those are things that you have to consider. For example, I had an offer from EMI to have a publishing deal when I got called to produce my first record for them. And when I talked it over with my attorney, we decided not to, because the money that they were going to pay me, it's like working for McDonald's. It wasn't a real, for me to give up so many sides a year, or for them to own, a certain portion of my publishing and have to turn in so many songs a month or quarter or whatever it is. my attorney thought, nah. so I turned it down.
Right. Well, Roger, we could go on
so that's
forever
my
and
story
ever.
on that.
Yes, we can go on forever and ever. But I think
No, it's okay.
the picture I get, relationships, crucial in any venture like this, any ministry like this. Some persistence.
Like those guys, and the guys that are writing there, if they're writers, they should have a little writers alliance where they meet once a week and share their songs, and maybe have a writers night, and 2 or 3 people, do rounds and show their songs to each other. There's something about that whole collaboration, whether or not you're writing together, not hearing other people's songs, getting perspective, and then networking. If you have a song that doesn't work, but you know that somebody else has a song that might work for a project, then recommend them. Don't say anything because you really want your song to get cut.
Right. So
that kind of competition nonsense is not going to work. Because right now, there's no real Adventist publishing house, and there's no Adventist owned movie house, which is a whole other thing for me. I mean, Mel Gibson did The Passion. It's embarrassing. Where's the movie house? These guys that do these skits and do AY, we should be doing movies. And there's a huge push for faith-based audiences in the UK, and we're not paying attention. I mean, not in the UK, in the industry, and we're not paying attention to that. But Hollywood is. That's why they have the Merge Summit, where Hollywood and Christianity meet. And I've been to that. It's been amazing. So there's a lot to consider, to think about regarding those things. I think that our church as a whole has to think a little more realistically about how the industry is working and moving. And we have to, we can be in the world, not of the world, and still be current, and we have to figure that out.
Sure.
But we can't figure it out with old ways and old means. We have to figure that out with an open mind.
Yeah,
and maybe move over and let some young people have some brighter ideas come and show you how to use, not just how to use your iPad, but how to do social media to help market your product. Whether it's Daniel the Revelation or not, it's still a product. And it needs to be marketed in an effective and tangible way so that people get a chance to experience it. And until we understand that, we're going to be in trouble. And we'll lose our young people. They'll go elsewhere.
Well, we spoke yesterday before this call about bringing you over to do some intensive workshops with some young aspiring producers.
I'd love it. I'll be there in a heartbeat.
I know that, my brother, and I'll be working on that, trust me. And before I go, I've been commissioned to offer profuse apologies on behalf of Gail Jones Murphy. She was in your town recently, and she never got a chance to reach out to you. So she said, you make sure you tell him, I'm so sorry.
Gail can do no wrong.
Okay.
I am one of the famous producers because, well, for one, Gail is one of my lighthouses. She showed me love and kindness years ago when I was in college. In fact, I told my choir on the bus, I said, we're at Gail Murphy's church. This is not the place to mess up. This is when I was a student. I've since produced a record that is distributed by Capital Christian, the Riverside Project. And I had the distinct honor and pleasure of producing a couple of Gail songs, and I feel like I'm a big-time producer because I got to produce her music. And one of them, even significantly, is one that Lucretia Campbell recorded, and I'm the last producer to actually produce her before she died. The song called Be Still, and Gail wrote it. So Gail can do no wrong. You tell Gail I love her, and I don't care who knows it.
Okay, Roger, take care, man. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and we look forward to meeting up face to face, man. God bless.
Thanks so much, Mike.
Anytime. My pleasure. Take care.
Okay, much love to you, brother.
All right, man. Take it easy. Bye-bye now. Bye.